So it's time for my final set of predictions, and it is League One. And League One is probably the toughest one to predict out of them all. A lot of teams in the contention for the top six, possibly even for the top two. It could be a range. There are also quite a lot of teams who are probably looking pretty weak and have had not very good summers, who could very realistically be in the bottom four as well. So League One is a very hard league to predict, but without any further ado, let's get on with it, and let's get on with 24th. In 24th place, I've gone with Northampton Town. I'm really sorry, Northampton fans. Look, you're back in League One. It's a great story. John Brady's a very good manager. I really like him. I think he did a good job getting you up. I really like some of the business as well. Mark Leonard's been brought back. Terry Simpson's been brought on loan. I think they're good signings. Sam Hoskins going to be very crucial to them, and so is Pinnock. So there are going to be a lot of deciding factors in terms of how Northampton cope in League One. But just in terms of how they compare to some of the other teams, I just don't think they're better prepared or have the quality in them to survive in League One. Now, this might raise a few eyebrows. In 23rd position, I've gone with Port Vale. Port Vale punched above their weight last season, survived in League One rather comfortably towards the end of it. They unfortunately got rid of Darryl Clark, who was a really, really influential figure there during a bad run he left. They've actually conducted some good business this summer. I really like Connor Ripley, Jason Lookviler, Mitchell Clark, Thomas Sang. They've brought in Connor Grant from Plymouth. Some really good, top, I'd say probably decent calibre League One players. Again, I'm not convinced by Andy Crosby, who again took over from assistant manager role, and that never really ends well. We've had it here at City very recently, where Dean Holden took over from Lee Johnson, and it didn't work out because assistants, the idea is not, doesn't fresh things up. I'm not sure that's going to work out. I think Port Vale will get sucked into it and eventually get relegated. In 22nd, and I've gone with Cheltenham. Now, Cheltenham, obviously the massive story there is the departure of Alfie May. Alfie May's so crucial for the time they've been in League One and that promotion campaign in League Two. They've signed Rob Street. I'm not sure that's going to, get the goals. I think he's a good player, Rob Street, but I'm just not sure he's going to get the goals. Curtis Davies has come in. Luke Southwood's come in. I'm quite surprised by that. I think he'd have more suitors are higher up League One. Liam Smith has come in from Dundee United. Some decent business, but compared to some of the others who I think have strengthened further and already have, better squads, I'm not convinced. I think Wade Elliott there, I think he did a good job taking over from Mike Duff last season. It could have been a very, very bad season for Cheltenham, but it wasn't. They kept afloat, but losing Alfie May is probably one of the massive reasons I think Cheltenham are going down. Now, I really don't want to do this, but in 21st, I've gone with Charlton. Just a quick interruption to say, yes, I did mean Carlisle. I did not mean Charlton at all. So that was a little mistake on my part. So, yeah, sorry about that. Let's get back into the video. And I love the story. I love the manager. I think Paul Simpson is an absolute genius, and I think he's a really, really good manager. And obviously he was here at Bristol City for an assistant and then left. But I think he's a really, really good manager. Sean Maguire's come in from Preston, who again, a couple of years ago was pretty good under Alex Neil. Sam Lavelle's come in on an unknown deal. I think that's a really good signing. Daniel Butterworth has come in on a free from Blackburn. Alfie McElmott has come in from Leeds. Jack Robinson's come in. So there are some good signings again at Carlisle. But in terms of comparing to other areas of other squads in League One in and around the relegation zone, I'm not, again, very convinced. But the only reason I have them 21st and not bottom comfortably is because of Paul Simpson. So if Carlisle have any hope of staying up, and I think they will push, I think at some point in the season they'll be out of the relegation zone, they're going to have to get off to a good start, and Paul Simpson's going to have to work his magic yet again. In 20th place and just surviving, and again a team I'm not very convinced by, and that's Shrewsbury. Now Shrewsbury have lost Steve Cottrell. There were obvious disparities between him and the board and the chairman there and whatever at Shrews. So they've lost him. They've brought in Taylor Perry from Wolves, and they've brought in Joseph Anderson on loan from Sunderland. They've brought in Elliot Thorpe on loan from Luton, who I think is a good signing. Noah Canay from Hibs, Jason Saraha from Barnsley, and Tumeze Sobawale. I don't know much about him, I'm not going to pretend. But main stand-up for me is Morgan Feeney. I think he's a really good player. Did really well at League One, League Two level for Carlisle last season. Really influential part of their promotion campaign. So that's a very good signing. That weakens Carlisle as well. So look, this is going to be a transitional period under Matt Taylor. This is not going to be an easy season for Shrewsbury. If they're expecting another comfortable ride in League One, another comfortable mid-table finish, I don't think that's happening. Steve Cottrell had them flirting with the playoffs for a bit last season, and that form eventually dipped quite a lot. But I think Matt Taylor is going to keep Shrewsbury up, but I'm not very convinced by the Shrews. In 19th place, another team I've got regressing, that's Exeter. Exeter have Gary Galwell in charge. I think he's a decent manager. I think he did another decent job, keeping Exeter up. They've lost Josh Key, they've lost Jacob Rees, they've lost Giovanni Brown, they've lost Archie Collins. Archie Collins, Jacob Rees, Giovanni Brown, Jamal Blackburn, all to fellow League One clubs. And they've lost the experience of Kevin McDonald in there as well. So it's going to be another tough season for Exeter in terms of replacing those players and then trying to improve. I don't think that's going to happen. Tom Carroll's been brought in, Zach Jules has been brought in on a one-year deal from MK Dons, and Vihami Sinaslo has been brought in on loan from Aston Villa. All, I think, are decent signings. So I think in terms of what they need to do, I think they need to, first of all, replace those players, because at the moment it doesn't look like they're gonna replace them, and do they have the financial strength in League One to replace and then add more quality on top of that? I'm not sure Exeter do. So I've got Exeter regressing, but in terms of compared to other teams below them, I think they've got enough to stay up. In 18th place, and a team that did an absolute miracle job last season on the last day to survive in League One, and that's Cambridge. Cambridge this season have lost Dimitar Mitov, Sam Smith, Harvey Nibs, both to Reading, and they've lost Lloyd Jones to Charlton, so that's not very ideal. They've brought in Sully Kaikai, they've brought in Jordan Cousins, they've brought in Danny Andrew, they've brought in Gaston Ahmade. Jack Stevens has come in, who I like quite a lot actually. So there has been some good business over at Cambridge. But I think the only reason I've really got them stagnating and possibly not regressing is because of Mark Bonner. I really like the job he's done there so far. I think he's a very good manager, and I think he will be... I think he has enough in his locker to keep Cambridge up once again. If it was any other manager, I'd probably have Cambridge flirting a lot more with the relegation spots, but because it's Mark Bonner, I have them safe. In 17th place, and I've gone with the League 2 champions, and that's Leyton Orient. Leyton Orient were just brilliant last season in League 2. They cruised to the finish line, won the title quite comfortably under Richie Wellens, and were an unbelievable team last season. They've lost their goalkeeper, Lawrence Vigouroux, and they've lost a pretty important talisman in Paul Smith. But Paul Smith, towards the back end of it, was, pretty uninspiring, so I'm not sure that's a massive loss. They've brought in Joe Pigott, they've brought in Saul Bryn, they've brought back Idris El-Mazouni on a loan from Ipswich, and that's a big deal for me. They've brought in Ethan Gilabert from Man United as well, and Daniel Ajayi from Crewe, so some really good deals and some really smart thinking at Leyton Orient, and I think they'll have enough. I think the quality they've lost is, major. I think Lawrence Vigouroux is probably the best goalkeeper in League 2 last season, so that was a big loss, but I think Solbrin is good enough, and I think Leyton Orient will have more than enough to stay in League One. Now, for my first out there prediction, my first utter, curveball, and that's 16th. I've gone with Wigan. Now, Wigan start with a -8 point difference, so you might say, well, surely they're going to be, in and around the relegation zone. I think they'll make that up pretty quickly, actually. But Wigan were a complete mess off the field towards the back end of last season, and even in the summer. They've lost Jack Watmo, and that's a massive, massive loss. They've not lost Max Power, they've lost Jordan Cousins, they've lost Will Keane to Preston, they've lost Curtis Tilt, Jamie Jones, Stephen Corker, Tom Naylor, Ryan Yambe, Anthony Scully, Gian Edwards, Joe Bennett, Graham Shinney, Tendai Darikwa, Omar Rekik's gone back, Christian Thierry's gone back. A lot of players have gone out the door at Wigan. Kel Watts has come in on loan. He's come back to the club. Liam Shaw's come in on loan from Celtic, who I think is a pretty good signing. Sean Clare's come in on a free from Charlton. Callum McManaman's come to the club. So there are some good deals there. I think Sean Maloney's a stable manager. I think I think he did a decent job towards the back end of last season in the Championship. I think Wigan are probably a stable, defensively solid club. They had a pretty, stable back line with the five in the back, and they were hard to break down at times, even Ashton Gate. I just don't think that mass exodus of players compared with, the 8-point deduction already, they're already on the back foot. I'm not sure they have enough to, push for that top half. I think a lot of other content creators have Wigan in around, the 12th to 14th area. I have them just a bit below. And that's purely because of that 8-point deduction and the high amount of quality in Exodus at League One level especially that's gone out the door. In 15th, and Stevenage are going to be really fun this season. They might not be pretty to play against under Steve Evans, but my boy, I think they might well be incredibly effective at League One level. They've brought in Nathan Thompson, they've brought in Louis Thompson, they've brought in Ben Thompson, Dan Butler's come in, Nick Freeman's come in, Alex McDonald's come in, Tay Ashby Hammond's come in. Really, really, really good, solid League One players who I think are going to improve them just like that, and I think that's going to be absolutely perfect for Steve Evans and for Stevenage. He has the know-how, doesn't he? He knows what it takes to stay up in this division, and the quality they've added on top of the quality they've kept, I think it's going to be absolutely fine for Stevenage, and I think they'll have a comfortable finish in 15th. In 14th place, and I've gone with a team that's had a lot of troubles off the pitch, but I don't necessarily think that's going to translate on the pitch. Fleetwood have been a club under Scott Brown that have progressed over the past 12 to 18 months, and I think that progression is going to continue. They've lost Carlos Mendes Gomez, who I think was pretty crucial, but they've brought in some really good players. Adam Montgomery, Ryan Broom, Patrick Boye, some really, really top, League One players who I think is going to fit right in. Along with the fact they've got Jack Marriott and Jaden Stockley up front, I think they're going to be absolutely fun. I think they're going to, just ride it out and probably stagnate around 14 and 13, because I think Fleetwood fans will absolutely take. So I think the good work done on the pitch is going to be enough for Fleetwood to comfortably finish in the League One table. In 13th place, and a bit of a box office club, and that's Bristol Rovers. Now, Rovers, if I'm looking at a completely neutral point of view, have actually added some decent players. Now, you've already obviously got the issues with Joey Barton and the signing of Giovanni Brown and whatnot. I'll put that all to bed. I'll put that aside. On a footballing basis, it's a decent signing. You'll get your goals. George Friend, I think, is a good signing as well at League One level. He clearly lost it in the Championship, so on a free, he's a good pick-up at League One level. Matthew Hall's come in, Matthew Cox has come in, Luke Thomas has come in on a free from Barnsley after he fell out of favour there. So I think Bristol Rovers are probably going to progress, but don't have enough to push on for the top half and a playoff place. Moving into the top half, and I have Burton in 12th. I really like what Dina Marmer is building there. A really good team towards the back end of last season, a comfortable mid-table side, and they've actually recruited really well this season. They've lost Connor Shaughnessy, they've lost Terry Taylor, but to be fair, they've replaced them in advance pretty well. Jacob Priest has come in, Jasper Moon, Ryan Sweeney, Jamal Blackman, Josh Gordon, Raheem Harper. Probably the best one of all though, Cole Stockton's come in on a free from Morecambe. Really good goal record at the Shrimps in the past couple of seasons. So, I think Burton have done really well this window for, a budget of their size. Let's be honest, they're a relatively small club, even at League One level. So, the fact that I've got them predicting them to be 12th, really, really good improvement. I think Burton are going to be absolutely fine and probably progressing quite a lot on the pitch as well. In 11th, I've gone with Wycombe. Now, Wycombe are probably in a transitional phase as a club. They've, moved on from the Gareth Ainsworth type of football, which is direct, up and at 'em football. They're moving to more possession-based, more passing, more on-the-floor football under Matt Bloomfield. They've lost Lewis Wing, who I think would have fit in perfectly, but they've lost him. Jordan Abita, Nick Freeman, Dominic Gate, they've all gone. They've brought in Freddie Potts on loan. They've brought in Dale Taylor on loan. Kane Vincent-Young's come in on a free from Ipswich. Luke Lee's come in on an undisclosed fee from Shrewsbury. Richard Keogh's come in. Some really good League One experience as well. Joe Lowe's come in from Bristol City. So some good calibre League One players who I think can make the step up to Wycombe pretty comfortably. But that transitional phase from, so much of the squad had been used to Gareth Ainsworth for so long, it's going to be a hard job for Bloomfield to straight away go in there and change it to a possession-based, team. So I think Wycombe are going to take this year, still be a pretty, good challenge for the top six because there is a quality in there. So I'm going to go with a fairly comfortable 11th place finish for Wycombe. In 10th place, and a team have got jumping up one place from last season, and that's Lincoln. Lincoln had so many draws last season, it was unbelievable. 20 in League One in the end. Mark Kennedy, progressive, decent manager who's gonna, rely on those defenders to keep teams out. They've brought in Tyler Walker, who will get you goals at this level. They've brought in Rico Hackett from Pompey as well. So I think that goal threat is now further enhanced. And I think Lincoln should bump up at least to one place. However, the competition is strong, so I don't see them getting into those playoff places. If you'd asked me where Reading would have finished a couple of weeks ago, I would not have them anywhere near the top half. But I've got Reading in 9th now. They've brought in Lewis Wing, they've brought in Sam Smith, Harvey Nibbs has come back. Some really, really, really good players. And they've brought in Charlie Savage on a permanent deal as well. So some really good players have gone into Reading. Obviously, they've really lost, quality Championship players as well, like Lucas Shaw, Yaku Maite, Shane Long, George Pushkas, Scott Down, Liam Moore, Navi Sarr, Tom Ince for next to nothing. And they've lost some loan players in Jeff Hendrick, Mamadou Loom, Tyrese Forner, Joe Lumley, Baba Rahman as well. So they've lost players. They've brought in some good players. I think Ruben Sellers is a good manager. I think he will get his ideas across. I think it'll be hard to implement at League One level, if I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think the quality's there. So I'm going to go with Reading to have a mediocre season and finish 9th. In 8th place, I've gone with Peterborough. With Peterborough, I'm normally quite impressed with their window and their business. This season, I'm not so sure. They've lost Frankie Kent. They've lost Nathan Thompson, his experience. Ollie Norburn's gone to a League One rival in Blackpool. They've lost Ben Thompson, who's had a reasonably decent season for them. Jack Taylor's gone. Joe Ward has gone for nothing, to a League One rival. They've brought in some good players. Again, you can't doubt that. Archie Collins from Exeter is a good signing. Ryan de Havilland apparently is going to replace Jack Taylor in the midfield. Nicholas Bilukovic has come in on loan from... he's coming on a permanent deal from Huddersfield. Finn Talley's come in from Brighton. And Pietro Chiozzo has come in from Rotherham, which I was rather surprised about because I think he's a good Championship player. So some good signings have come in. However, again, I'm not convinced that they're going to, really going to progress. Jonathan Clark-Harris is there, who is going to get you goals at this level, at least 20 at the minimum. So I think that his goals are going to be useful, but they have lost Jack Taylor, who is an absolute mammoth in that midfield for Posh. And I'm not sure de Havilland can make that, or Collins for that matter, can make that step up to his level. So I've got Peterborough regressing a few places into 8th and out of the playoffs. Now Oxford are a weird club because last season Oxford, just about safe in League One. But this season I've got them pushing for that playoff place. I think they've made some good recruitment. Stanley Mills, Mark Harris, Finlay Stevens, James Beadle, Ruben Rodriguez in particular as well. Some really good players have come in to the Kassam. I think Liam Manning is probably one of the big reasons why I've got Oxford progressing so far up. He's a very good manager. He did really well at MK Dons. It kind of petered out, but they lost some really good players, MK. So I think Oxford are going to, really progress under Liam Manning, and I think they will definitely push for that playoff place. Into the playoffs we go, and in 6th, and maybe a bit of a surprise for some, I've gone with Barnsley. Now Barnsley have had some major departures this window. They've lost manager Mike Duff, who was actually crucial for them, and they've lost their captain and main centre-back, Mans Anderson. They've retained Devante Cole, and they've brought in some good players. Max Waters has come back, Corey O'Keefe has come in from Forest Green, Finn Killip and Liam Roberts have both come in the goalkeeper situation, and Casala Potter has come in from the National League as well. So there are some good players coming into Barnsley. And Neil Collins, obviously we don't know much about him, but good reputation over at the Tampa Bay Rowdies. I think they'll be fine. Genuinely, I think that Barnsley have enough in their squad in terms of quality to retain a playoff place, and I think it'll be tough for them. However, I think they'll be fine and retain a playoff place in 6th. The only reason I have Blackpool in 5th is because of Neil Critchley. I absolutely loved what he did first time round in League One, getting them promoted at Wembley. They've lost Jerry Yates, which is a massive, massive miss. They've lost Chris Maxwell and they've lost Geshy Anderson. Some big misses there. However, they've brought in Matthew Pennington, they've brought in Ollie Norburn, and they've brought in Carl Joseph from Swansea in a kind of a swap deal for Jerry Yates. So I think Blackpool are going to be fine. And I think the quality in that team, along with the more recruits, I think they will bring more people in because they need to, quite frankly. I think they will be fine. And I think Blackpool are going to have more than enough than it takes to fight and get into the playoffs. And purely because they have a really, really good manager in Neil Critchley at the helm. This may be a bit brave, but I've gone with Charlton in 4th. Now, they've brought in some really, really eye-catching players, notably Lloyd Jones, Harry Eisted, Alfie May, Pantush Kamara, Teo Aiden, and Terry Taylor. Some really, really top League One players who were playing in the Championship last season. So, I think there is really no excuse now for Charlton to kick on. They've lost Sean Clare, they've lost Sam Lavelle, they've lost Joseph Vollicott, Macaulay Bonnell, Alex Gilby and Albie Morgan. However, I think they should have more than enough under Dean Holden, ex-Bristol City manager. I think they should have more than enough to kick on and fight for that playoff place. I think it's going to be really tight between them, Blackpool, Barnsley, teams below them, to fight for that playoff place. Oxford, Wycombe, up to Wycombe, I'd say. I think it's going to be tough for them, but I think they should have more than enough to get that playoff place. In 3rd, I've gone with Portsmouth. Now, there is immense pressure on Portsmouth this season. So a lot of players have come in. Regan Poole's come in, Ryan Schofield, Kushi Nyengi, Rico Hackett has gone out, so that's, a pretty major departure. Terry Devlin, Connor Shaughnessy, I really like, Gavin White, Anthony Scully, Christian Saley, Will Norris. Aggressive recruitment in League One. So, I think Portsmouth are going to massively improve under John Mousinho. As to say that, I'm not overly convinced by John Mousinho. If they had, more established League One manager, which they've tried in the past, King Jackett, Danny Cowley, they've tried that and it hasn't worked out, maybe they would have probably be a bit higher with the squad they have, which is notably, very good at this level. I think they're going to improve. I think they're going to make Fratton Park a really, really tough place to go to. However, Portsmouth, this is your 7th season in League One. You can't be, in here too much longer. Have to get out of here. I think this might be one of the best chances they have. However, the teams I'm going to mention above them, top 2, have immense quality and immensely very good managers as well. So it's going to be really harsh on Pompey, but I've got them in 3rd. The top 2. And to be honest, this is rather straightforward for me. I've gone with Bolton in 2nd. Bolton have been progressing under Ian ever since he's been in charge. It's from that first season where they got promoted, where they were, I think, 17th or 18th in League 2 at the halfway stage. They got promoted. Ever since, they haven't looked back, really. A playoff campaign in League One last season, they lost out to Barnsley, who then lost out in the 123rd minute to Sheffield Wednesday in the playoff final. I think they're going to have enough to progress that one step further and get into the top 2. Paris Magoma has been brought in, the latest one on loan. Carlos Mendes Gomez is an unbelievable signing on a permanent deal from Luton. Zachary Ashworth, William Forrester, who really impressed at Port Vale, Nathan Baxter, who's a championship level goalkeeper at Hull, Dan Ndulu has been brought back to the club on a permanent basis. Some really, really good business. To cap it all off, they've got Ian Evatt in charge, who plays brilliant football, really exciting manager, who is going to take the Bulls by the horns and going to get Bolton into the top 2 for me. In number 1 position, it is, again, a very straightforward pick. I've gone with Derby. Derby last season just missed out on the playoffs. However, they've recruited brilliantly and they've got a manager who knows the division and will probably get them out of it in a different club. Kane Wilson's coming from Bristol City, who I think is going to flourish at League One level with consistent games and when he builds up his fitness. Sonny Bradley is just a ridiculous signing at League One level. He should be playing Championship football. Connor Washington, Josh Vickers, both brought in from Rotherham, steady Championship players who will probably excel in League One once again. Curtis Nelson, has been in the Championship for a while. Probably dropped out in terms of quality, so very good signing at League One level. Callum Elder was very solid for Hull at Championship level, so at League One he's going to flourish. And Joe Ward was unbelievable in terms of chance creation from fullback and from wing back, so it's going to be again a very good signing. They've lost Jason Knight to Bristol City, who again midfield, very crucial to that midfield. David McGoldrick, a lot of goals and assists last season, getting on in age. Will he be able to replicate that in League One? I'm not so sure. Maybe he probably would have, but he's gone and he's gone to Notts County. They've lost James Chester, they've lost Christian Bielik, they've lost Curtis Davis, who's been there for ages. So some crucial departures, but overall I think they've improved the squad. And as I mentioned, Paul Warren, I think he's going to have more than enough to take Derby back to the Championship. So those are my League One predictions for the 23-24 campaign done. Again, don't get offended, don't get emotional in the comment section. If I've put your team, not where they want you to, honestly, that's fine. You can comment on it. Don't waste your time. Don't waste my time either. I'm not going to reply to it. I'm not biting. So, yeah, that's about it. Don't really get emotional in the comments. It's a bit pointless. I don't really care. We move on. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this, hit like. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Stalk YouTube channel for more Bristol City content in the future. And as we build up a new season, that's the predictions done as well. Premier League, Championship and League One all out of the way. Thank you guys very much for the support so far. It will be the preview against Preston next, so keep your eyes out for that one. I'll see you soon.